households engaged in business and self-employed who just do not reveal to either our tax authorities or even NCAER surveyors what their true income is. Also, of course, the poor and vulnerable think that underreporting their incomes might fetch them benefits that stating their true income might deprive them of. Nevertheless, bearing in mind this caveat that we are talking of only about 53% of our national income, there is but one source of national income estimates. The NCAER, under the extraordinarily sincere and dedicated leadership of their chief statistician, Dr. Rajesh Shukla, and Mr. Suman Berry, the wise and gentle Director General of NCAER. NCAER have estimated that if our economy grows at an average of 8.75% per annum over the next 5 years, that is 2010 to 2015, as projected by the Planning Commission, then by the terminal year of the MDG 2015, the bottom 20% of our population would have added about 2,000 rupees per year to their annual income. Growing at 8.75%, the lowest quintile would have added 2,000 rupees per year to their present levels of income, while the top 20% in urban India would have added a whopping 75,000 rupees, 37 times more than the poorest 20% to their national income, to their annual income. Please remember that the top 20% in NCAER's quintile estimates comprise Indians with an average annual income of rupees 154,000. Therefore, the modestly well-off will probably see their annual incomes booming by 370 times more, and the phenomenally wealthy garnering 37,000 times more than the poorest Indians, making do with a rise of less than 2,000 rupees a month in their per capita income over just the next 5 years. Moreover, says the NCAER, while at present the top 20% secure 51% of 53% of our national income, at 8.75% growth, their share will rise from 51% to 55% by 2015, while the share of the bottom 20% will shrink from 6.1% to 5.5%. In other words, the poorest of the poor are barely benefiting from accelerated growth, while the richer are getting obscenely richer. This was reported to government by NCAER on 31 July 2010, a month after the release of our MDG country report. I am not privy to government's reaction, but I did ask Dr. Rajesh Shukla, NCAER's outstanding chief statistician, to share with me his projections of how the poorer would fare compared to the better off if, instead of the quintiles he had used in his presentation to government, that is, dividing the population into 5 segments of 20% each, he were to break this down into 20 segments of 5% each. While he's still working on such a projection, he was able to retrieve for me from his raw data the position as it obtained in 2004-05. This showed that the lowest income earners those earning less than 20 rupees a day and comprising 50% of our population secure only 19.6% of our national income, while the richest 5% secure nearly a quarter of our national income, 23.8%, excluding, of course, the non-reported 47% of national income, the bulk of which is the black money generated, the black money income of the rich and the richest. The other deeply disturbing finding is that the poorer an Indian is, the more entrapped in personal debt he is likely to be. Thus, the poorest 5%, earning less than 8 rupees a day, consume 3,590 rupees a year against an income of 2,145 a year. Their share of expenditure is 167% of their income. As one goes up the scale, income approximates to expenditure only at 15% of our population. It remains as high, that is, the share of expenditure in income remains as high as 79% for the best of 5% segment of 50% of our population, and does not significantly taper off till we have reached 3/4 of our population. It is only the richest 5% of our population whose percentile savings at 37% approximates the national savings rate. The poor are dissaving. The extremely rich are saving. The extremely rich invest their savings in a stock market that is relentlessly supported by a government which believes that the health of the stock market reflects the health of the economy and has facilitated non-taxable flows of capital into the stock market to the extent that that large and booming economy, that highly populated island in the Indian Ocean, Mauritius, accounts for 44% of all capital flows into our stock market. And how has this come about? It so happened that I accompanied Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi to Mauritius in 1986, about 3 years, I think it was, after Indira Gandhi had gone to Mauritius, and given the very large Indian origin population in that island state, had accepted the request of the Mauritians that we should enter into a double taxation agreement with them so that Indian capital flows into Africa could be routed through Mauritius. And in a few years, the Mauritians, who are clearly much cleverer than those of us Indians who were left behind, converted their little island into a major base for capital market operations. And in consequence, when I went there last year, I saw a first world country in what was just 25 years ago a completely third world entity. And it is because all money, black or white, which Indians have stashed away or others don't want to pay taxes on, come pouring into the Indian stock market through Mauritius, that I say that we are doing our best to support a capital market whose component elements are of somewhat doubtful moral value. However, given that that is so, it is this high level of personal indebtedness of the poor, combined with the easy access to corporate debt of the rich, that necessitates our regarding not only the utterly destitute as poor, but also the vulnerable as poor. These are, of course, figures relating to 5 years ago. But I'm willing to bet that when the 2009-10 figures come in, and later the figures for the terminal year of MDG 2015 are compiled, income consumption ratios for the poor would have worsened, while the Pareto extrapolation would show the richest 1% to be way ahead of even the next 4% on every scale of earning, spending, and saving. One telling indicator of the skewing of income and the distortion